Okay, so what time do you have?
5:05.
Call the meeting to order at 5:05. So I did share the agenda. Is there anything, any would care to address that's not on the agenda? And I do have some very small items that weren't specified on the agenda, but we'll talk about. I think we should notice that. Can someone make a motion to approve the minutes from the February meeting?
Motion to approve.
Second,
I'll second.
any discussion, any corrections?
My apologies for not being here. It was my birthday.
Oh, we didn't know that. Happy birthday.
Oh, you had a wonderful, were you up in Maine?
Yeah.
Good for you. So,
Well, next year we'll have a cake.
all in favor of accepting the minutes? Opposed? Abstained?
I'm staying.
Abby?
I don't have such a good excuse. So I'm just-
Yeah, your excuse.
But seeing you in the White Mountains.
Minutes are accepted. Can you tell if there's anybody else online beside us? Jasmine?
Not that it looks like.
Okay, so it'll be a public comment. Andrea, you were kind enough to say that you might talk briefly about the FOI meeting. Beyond the FOI, was there any discussion of like, procedures or anything like that from staff?
Yeah, I noticed. No. If there any, I'm just kind of running through notes, but things that's popped out at me were, the 48 hours for a regular meeting, for a notice, 24 for a special meeting. When you reply all, limit it to just the response to the person who's sending it. I guess some discussions, I'm not sure even of the video, but I think there was no vote to be had. It was just comments. So I could send out my video, please comment, but we weren't going to be voting or really discussing it. So I think that would be okay to reply to all. And you could concur or say, well, in my opinion, but if there's something more formal of a vote, can't divulge that. In an email. In an email.
It's, I think that is somewhat of a gray area though. I've heard multiple opinions, for example, in Gateway, that we're cautioned not to have online discussions. That if you send out the video and said, what do you think of this video? Everybody writes back just to you, that's okay. But if Joan comments and then Christine comments on Joan and you comment on Joan back, then you've got a discussion and it's potentially a meeting. Or if not a meeting, which is what may be even more onerous, is your emails may be subject to discovery. FYI,
What constitutes a quorum?
A majority of the numbers.
So if two people are discussing it, it's not a meeting,
Right.
or even three.
or makes a quorum for us.
So if you've got less than a quorum, it's not a meeting and there's no discussion. That needs to, I think that's what my.
And there was some discussion also as to what makes a quorum versus a committee, or there was another, but maybe it was a subcommittee. So I think within a subcommittee, we could have some discussion. So yes, to your point. Calendar update, you let Michelle or Vicky know. Sending out an agenda is not a FOI violation. Minutes must be made available within 7 days. You are spot on. Like the afternoon the next day. Those are takeaways.
Okay. Great, thank you, Andrea. Was it well attended?
It was very well attended.
Good.
And there were some people from Road and Public Safety there. Daniel was there. So like that.
Thank you. Moving on to the kind of open space business, talking about stewardship, did you want to talk about what Peter has done? No?
Yes, sir. Peter had walked all the properties in February, except for Ames and Champlain South. He had modified the duck houses, with theme stuff and installed the door latches that we didn't get to with the high schoolers. He collected the tools from Isaac that I had, but he kept the chainsaw to use for himself, which is totally legit because he'd been otherwise using his. And he hand cut and removed 3 down trees. In March, I've been on the trails a few times already, it's not much into March, in the end of February, when Peter's in Florida until the 22nd. And up until now, it's been sloshy and slushy and impassable, so, but there are a lot of small debris of trees and branches that are down, so it's gonna require, anyone walking, stewards or not, to just take tree branches away and then to do some hand cutting near the trails. And he and I were talking about the materials for the duck houses. The post that he was proposing, were you with us when we walked with, Joe? Or was it just
No.
Peter and myself?
No, it was you and Peter.
So, we could use wood, we could use a metal pole and a backhoe, but the metal pole that Peter was proposing looks like the kind you would pop in the ground that has a little hook on it, for a fence, but I think that's too thin.
Dirty enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it would be top heavy, so.
Yeah.
If Evan and Fred in particular and Joan would have any, I was envisioning, and from my conversation with Joe, with Peter, just like a round, small round metal pole. I think it should be eye level to somebody of Peter's height or whoever's gonna open up the box. And a baffle. So he comes back on the 22nd of March. I leave around then for 2 weeks. So maybe if you have ideas, you could, visions of a pole, or unless you have something, send it to me here, and Peter copy us, and then he could get the material.
Yeah.
So that early, mid-April, that could go in the ground, hopefully.
Do we have an idea when the wood duck nesting season is?
I was gonna go over there today to see if they're back yet, but I think.
Joe? Yeah, Joe was saying like March, April would be
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So this would be the time. So as I said, he's not back until the 22nd, and then I leave until the early April.
I thought that there was a suggestion in the video about building the boxes. At the end of the video, there was something about attaching the pole and making the baffles, the predator baffles.
Oh, the how to make the box
Yeah.
video?
Yeah,
Um,
before the end of that, there was, I mean, once they got the box built, they said, well, this is how you put it up, and just here, this is what you do to make the baffles, how you cut the sheet metal and.
You can even buy baffles.
you could buy a baffle too.
The
That's
only
a certain
thing, is
dimension,
it
but
going in the actually in the middle of the pond or?
kind of.
It is.
So if you are standing to the right of, on the path to the right of Logan's Bridge,
Right.
there's a little island in the of debris and trees at Bartholomew. That's where Joe was suggesting would be the best place. So if this is the bridge and this is the water, it would be about
Yeah.
here. There's a little
Yeah.
island. So it would mean waders or a little kayak from here to where Karen is to paddle out and plant a pole.
Pole's gonna be hard to get. I'm envisioning how you get that, cause to make it sturdy in the middle of the pond, it's probably sandy or muddy. It's gonna have to go down pretty
Need
deep.
to dig a hole for that.
Yeah.
I think you need, if you had a pole, like an inch and a half pole, just a metal post.
Yeah.
You'd have to drive it in, but if it's an 8-foot pole, you could do that with a sledgehammer
That's true.
and drive it down 2 feet
Yeah.
or to whatever level Peter can reach.
How many nests are we talking about here?
One on Bartholomew, one was to be put on Ames.
So two in both.
Yes.
It might be worth just checking to see what Wild Birds Unlimited has, if they have
Yeah.
anything that could.
Yeah.
use-
Yeah, they might have. Forward.
Pretty expensive.
Yeah, they are, yeah. My husband, when we put up our Bluebird boxes, we just went to Home Depot and got that metal bowling, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, the galvanized, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's held up really
Yeah.
well.
We have.
What about the heavier duty poles that they use for like the street signs?
That probably work better, but where you'd get something like that.
I have one that I just got
Yeah.
salvaged. That's just one though. They're heavier.
Yeah.
I think you need a metal pole to drive it in,
Right.
because unless you're getting the wood.
Yeah, we got it.
It's
wood
just
goes
gonna
in there.
rot anyway.
Yeah.
the wood would.
I'm sorry that Katie gave me a note, so I was distracted momentarily. Well, the Wild Bird use feeders, and I'm sure they sell posts for nests as well. And most of them have baffles that are made right for those
Yeah.
posts. I mean, you kill two birds with one stone. I'm not sure if what they have is suitable or not, but I think it might be worth checking. And we do have the budget.
I have to actually go over there this week.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I mean, the baffles is a good idea, we need that, but, Public Works might have a post for us or two.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a good phone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be, we could probably do something a little less expensively, although do we want to make the baffles? Do we have the time to make the baffles? Because they definitely have baffles.
Yeah, and so does, Ocean State, I got a nice one there, yeah, it was like $20.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on how, how wide the
Right.
pole is, if it'll fit. I think they're somewhat adjustable, but.
The one at Home Depot,
Yeah, it was the kind you can sort of
at
pull it up.
Ocean State,
Yeah.
so you
Oh, I
adjust.
see. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
yes,
the
yeah.
temps. Sure.
Yes,
It's not the.
it's not the cylinder.
Right.
And you also have to be somewhat isolated where you put it, because years ago, we put up a feeder with a baffle. The squirrel went on a bush and jumped right over.
Oh,
the
they
baffle.
did, yeah. Mainly the snakes, though, I think.
Okay.
The dogs.
But they, you mentioned that Peter's using Isaac's chainsaw.
Well, the town chainsaw.
Isaac's, the
Yeah,
one Isaac had used, the
Yeah.
town chainsaw. Would you suggest that when we hire another, that we buy a second chainsaw so that he need not use his own?
I might say no, because technically they should be together.
Right.
The one person with one chainsaw and the other as a spotter.
Yeah.
So I think the one chainsaw, we have two chaps, two helmets, two goggles, so the other person will be uniformed, but I think just one person needs to use the chainsaw. And right now, with or without another steward, it's Peter, because he's familiar with it, done the training. And depending upon who the other steward is,
That's fine.
they need not need one.
Or I would want to bring that up.
Thank you.
Yeah, social topic. So speaking of Peter and stewards,
Fred, can I jump in before we get to that? Just I don't know if it falls under stewardship, but I think it kind of does, since Bill isn't here. He stopped by my house, a couple weeks ago and picked up those cages that we had used to protect the plantings at, the landing. And he attached them to some of the trees that were at risk along the trail at Bartholomew. So now we've got some, little bit of beaver protection, hopefully, and give him a shout out for taking care of that, and, because they were just going to town.
Yeah.
And, you know, for the ones that are in proximity to trails and bridges and things, we certainly don't want.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so the other thing I wanted to mention too is Peter, when I was away, texted to Andrea and I the image that's up on the screen. And did we ever determine if that was an ATV or whether that was by Eversource or one of Eversource's contractors or just somebody cruising around out in the wild?
It was not, I never followed up with
Okay,
anybody.
interesting. It doesn't look like a big vehicle. It looks like a big ATV, but so anyway. You should keep an eye out
Good
for
to have
that.
a dog in there for scale.
That's Peter's companion.
Yeah.
So speaking of, while we're on the topic of stewards, we did get Jamie McGlisky, the town HR person, advertised the job, and we got, I think, 2 or 3 applicants. And it turned out we were apparently not specific enough, and the applicants thought it was a full-time job. And what we found, they found out it was a part-time job, they were no longer interested. So before I left, I posted the opening on the Connecticut Land Conservation Council website. And we had 3 applicants who I trust know that it's gonna be a part-time job. One is a gentleman from Waterford. He is working at Best Buy now. He worked at General Dynamics and doing a lot with shipping, quality control, inventory control. A woman from Groton who is an assistant professor at Mitchell College, and she teaches marine and environmental science, which is interesting.
Mhm.
And another gentleman who is a self-employed carpenter. So I would suggest that we interview all 3.
Sure.
Would I of you care to touch base with Jamie and see if we can set up the interviews?
Sure. My only caveat is from March 27th
You're gonna travel.
to April 5th, I'm traveling.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to reach out to Jamie.
We've got a few weeks, yeah. I think it can come
Yeah,
up, 'cause I
so
get
we'll
them
see
in
if we
before
can
you
get
leave.
them in sooner than later. And
Yeah.
do you have any time constraints?
I'm pretty available.
So the other thing, I don't want to be a nudge on this, but you did talk about a young fellow that you thought was interested.
Yep.
Do you think he might be still, if he's interested, he's got to apply?
Right, he hasn't responded
Okay,
to,
so we'll pass him by. then.
yes, I think so.
Okay, that's fine. I just didn't want to have him lose on the opportunity if he wasn't that interested. The other thing I wanted to go over really quickly. I commend Fred for his time devoted to the town. I see he's been going through all the board finance.
Busy time.
This is his busy period, I'm sure, for that. I think you guys were meeting last evening too, were you?
Yes, weekly lately, yeah.
So we have spent 71% of our budget. And again, that's a little bit misleading because probably looking at something in the range of a little bit north of $5,000 for the Whippoorwill Beaver
Mm.
Dam. I talked to Monster Bat today. They are just going to start thinking about their schedule. He said he doesn't want to come out until he knows that whatever's in that culvert is good and thawed. I don't know, he's coming from Tiverton, Massachusetts. Pretty good ride for him. From Massachusetts to Rhode Island. And I touched base with John Egan, and they're ready to go whenever that's cleaned out to put the baffle or whatever, so.
So the 5K is for cleaning out and the Keystone system.
What's that?
The 5,000
Yes,
is
for
for
all.
both.
Altogether. And I think we should have everything squared away by April. I'm gonna be traveling actually at the end of April, so I really would like to have that squared away.
Mm.
And we have a little bit of monies from carryover from last year as well, though we pretty much spent that down. Do you know if Pond and Lake has gotten us our spray permit yet?
They are in the process and they, I have actually reached out to him about a few things and he said that, sorry, they actually, the NVDB check review, whatever, is only good for like 2 or 3 years, so we actually had to repeat the MVDB this year, so that's why it's taking a little bit longer to get the actual permit in hand, but he's confident that it's work out and thinks it's, you know, possible but unlikely that, you know, we might need to engage our herpetologist again, but he'll keep me posted.
It would seem Doctor will have to have a herpetologist, so we went through treatment without one. And it's gonna be minimal.
Especially,
We're not gonna have the big
right.
thing there either.
We're not having the big equipment, the actual quantity being used and area being treated is much reduced, so. He seems to.
But, in my absence, I believe that I asked you guys, but Andrea, Russ, and we're talking about chaos, about chaos. Would either of you like to discuss that?
Sure, yeah, so we met again yesterday. I don't know, it was this week. And, you know, we were able to kind of sum up what's needed in the way of individual signs and they're really only, we had talked about replacing the tick warning signs because some of them are so huge. There's only 2 tick warning signs that are kind of oversized, so we'll have to be replacing 2 of those. And oh, here it is. All right, so 2 tick signs, we'll need to be buying, so we talked about the QR codes and I want to circle back to that again. But there'll be 8 of those, 1 for each kiosk. 8 new coyote signs and 8 land acknowledgement signs. So, and we can talk with Christine in a minute about the wording for that. But to come back to the QR code, I think, Greg, you had originally suggested that it would be interesting for people to be directed to that property page on our website to learn more about the history and other kind of interesting attributes of the property. And Russell actually said that, you know, if we directed, he suggested we could direct folks to the primary hiking page or whatever it's called, which where all of the properties with trails are listed and ones that don't have trails as well, but where you can then click through to get to that more detailed information about each property. But by directing them to sort of the mother list, if you will, of our trails, of our properties,
Since
then you kind of are encouraging them to explore other properties. Right. So kind of the idea of saying, you know, if you're interested in Champlain South, you know, be aware that there's 4 other options for you, 5 other options for you to.
So the QR code would go to like.
Right, and then
it would go to not a hiking so much, like if this is your website, when you first get to it,
Yeah,
there's open space and old line.
that whole left column is a mess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it would go to basically the description of the open space and old line where from A to Z, it lists in alphabetical order the trails.
Okay, so you get the whole menu of our properties. And the advantage there is that it'd be the same QR code on every kiosk, which is a little bit easier. And, you know, Russ really felt like it was a good way to kind of advertise, if you will, or, you know, get the word out about, you know, all the different trails that are here, so.
I mean, once you get there, it's easy enough to find your
Yeah.
trail.
Yes.
Exactly,
Yeah.
once you get there, you're like, oh, there's mine, that's where I am, or you, but on the way, you might say, oh, next time I could go there.
Yeah.
You know, so I thought it was.
Yeah,
a good idea. All right.
So, and I read, an email that Russ sent me about. UConn is populating negative trail finders with our properties and they're working on trail descriptions. But would we be doing whatever trail description input we have? Newly associated with each of those hiking properties?
On the Yukon Trail Finder, I don't know,
No, on our site.
on our site.
So when you click on the QR code,
Uh-huh.
would you just get a map or would you get a map and description of the trails?
Well, so there's two QR codes, right? We were talking about having a QR code that goes to this kind of.
The hiking.
The hiking.
Indoors.
Which
Right.
would,
On the
description.
maps, there's also actually two QR codes. There's one for Avenza maps, which. Okay, and then there's another QR code that I guess
is the map.
is just the map. That's right, thank you. So I don't know that any of that detail from Connecticut Trail Finder is accessible either on our website or you know, through the map QR code or anything like that. I mean, my recollection, I would have to defer to Russ about you know, what exactly we provided to Connecticut Trail Finder, but that it's, you know, it's reasonably concise. You know, I have to think that there's a good amount, but we should, I mean, we need to revisit our website,
We do.
our web pages in general. And, you know, where we can, with some of the new information about, you know, because Russ has been working on, you know, ease of access or, you know, other kinds of points of interest. And, you know, and I think he was even looking into like time or distance, you know, putting that kind of stuff in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty detailed, but I think the place for it would be on the individual property pages on the website. So,
Yeah, I've always liked the idea of putting information about trail lengths and to the extent that it's feasible, information about whether this is an easy trail to do or this is a trail that's gonna be a little more strenuous for you.
right,
So I don't know if I totally grasp what we're talking about with QR codes. So we'll have a QR code on the map thing that's already been made that'll go right to the map.
right.
And we'll have another QR code that'll go to a hiking inventory page.
Yes,
Correct, with paper.
Yeah.
So if you're on
Yeah.
Champlain South and you want information about it besides the map, you could click on that QR code and it will take you to Champlain South.
So are you gonna make a QR code, little
Yeah.
QR code sign?
And the idea was that it would say, scan here for more information on this and other open space trails.
Yeah, I was gonna say you need to have some verbiage on there, so distinguish between the two.
So, that was kind of what our recommendations were, and then, did a little. Unfortunately, to make a reasonably scaled version of the kiosks, it does not fit on 8.5 by 11 paper, but it does fit on this nice trace paper that I had, that's just a little bit bigger. So anyway, if people are interested in pass this around, that's kind of a proposed layout, but Andrea went up and measured the smaller tick signs for us, which was great. So this is an approximation of what, if we make the tick sign and the coyote sign the same size.
Oh, the coyote would be the same size, 12 by 6.
Nice.
Okay.
And then, just to give it a little less of a hodgepodge, because there's a little all over the, yeah. The town rules sign is the town rules sign, that's not gonna change. The maps are 16 by 20, and then we would have the new QR code going through our inventory. And then at the very bottom, and this is a great segue, a nice land acknowledgement, take it away, Christine.
So I think in sort of putting together what everybody, the feedback from everybody. I think the one that I put together that I think maybe will work the best would be we acknowledge the indigenous people who came before us as we work for the protection of the land, water, plants, and animals.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Yeah.
And what size would that be?
Well, I ballparked it at 12 by 4, mainly just to take advantage of the available real estate on IKEA and have things not be like overlapping and stuff. So it was, 12 by 4.
And the QR code?
That one is 5 by 4. I can.
Just as an FYI now, while we're doing this, I mentioned that when people first started coming in here, that I do have some things on this laptop that we'll share, but this is as much a test as a requirement for today's meeting. And I'm hopeful in the future that we have anything like that.
Oh,
You
that
can
I
send it to
put
me
it
and
up
we can
there?
show it up there
Yeah.
rather than pass.
Get the
Okay, we'll have it.
picture of it.
You're moving us up into the.
Entering the 21st
Second.
It has not been easy. We had a meeting last night and unfortunately we couldn't get it to work. So Katie sat in her office and advanced slides.
Oh my gosh.
Can you send me that?
Yeah, of
Of
course.
course later, okay, because then I will speak with Chris, the board.
Yeah.
To get some, and then we had the coyote sign we wanted to,
Right, do you have
kind
a picture? Great.
oh, I'm sorry, it's archaic. It's
It's okay.
Don't tell.
This might be perfect.
So we looked at several, this is what is presently on it, so it's a lot of verbiage,
Oh, yeah.
people aren't gonna
Those
look
are
at it.
easy.
Yeah, and then there were others, sorry, bad picture, but it's, and then a number of them that we had gone through. But this seems visible, concise, identifying coyotes may be present, some trails have them more than others. And it presently reads, do not feed coyotes, keep pets on leash in bold. If a coyote approaches, not in bold, appear large and aggressive, make loud noises, back away slowly, do not run. My,
Kind of covers.
Yeah.
I think you have on there for more information. Is that going to be included?
No,
We'll
No.
let go. No.
just the question of editing, I don't know if, they do not feed coyotes should be the first sentence. I don't think that's the first response people are gonna do,
I
but
think the first thing should be keep your dogs on leash.
yeah.
yeah, that's, so we
Exactly.
did talk about switching that and then have if approached. Appear large and aggressive, make loud noises, back away slowly, do not run. Then the question is, do we bold it all or?
I think it's, I just think it's nice and simple like that,
And just switching the first two.
People are either gonna read it or they're not. I bet most people would read it, so.
Well, I think I think the fact that you're just letting people know that Old Lyme does have coyotes and they're living in the woods and they're denning in the woods and
I think it's good to be cautious about that, because our coyotes know to attack humans.
Yeah.
well, there was an attack at was it Champlain South? Somebody with a dog on a leash and they got close to a den was springtime.
This year?
No,
A couple of years ago.
Oh, was
5
that
years
John
ago.
Flowers?
What's that?
John Flowers?
I don't know who it was, but it was, their dog was attacked.
Yeah, the dog was.
That's the dog is the bait, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're probably.
They think it's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
well, I was,
it's-
was that, do you know if that was a big dog or a small dog?
If it, I know that John Flowers had an incident, it was like in 2021, right after, during COVID, 2020. And he had a yellow lab, but not a massive lab, but a good size, bigger than Fizz, bigger than Willa. He ended up picking up the dog and having to carry it out, and so it was an older dog too. And then there was all these rumors about rabies, and it kind of got blown up rumor wise, but,
I think a certain rabies is a possibility. Claudio and I was talking about that, but the mothers are gonna be very protective of the pups.
yes.
this time of year. I have a friend that, her son was walking in MDC property in West Hartford. He had maybe a 15-pound dog, like one of the smaller dogs that's,
Mm.
that hyperallergenic, and a coyote just grabbed it
Yeah.
by the neck and ran off with it.
Mhm. That happened to my brother in Simsbury, came right up to his patio, took their little dog, and they found, they found his little thing, and
Oh,
I was against it, my brother. He been taught out, like,
oh, boy.
Well, speaking of coyotes, the land trust has their annual meeting later this month. with
Yeah.
Jenny Apple talking about coyotes,
Mhm.
which Joan and I had talked about possibly doing a presentation.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure when,
We got
we
scoops.
talked about it last month, and I wasn't sure which one they had decided on, the board, so I didn't say,
No,
we're
I-
considering
no.
coyotes, and I
So I
didn't
wanted
talk
to
about
ask you this.
I mean, there were several topics out there, and
Is your meeting open to the public and any
Yes.
of our members?
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
I replied.
You have to
but I'd
register.
like to go,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, do you need to pre-register?
We liked it.
Okay.
I did, I registered and I thought it was required.
Yeah, we would prefer it to be required, but it's not, We-
The
people don't always follow, so I'm not gonna throw you out if you show up and hadn't registered.
The form on
You
your
got
website,
connections.
yeah?
You got connections.
Yeah.
We have our new little program there. I think when you register, you get a little note saying we got it, and then you get something after too, saying that you're registered. I think once I accept it, then it goes out the second email, so. We're coming into that century too.
Speaking of your website, do you have our new maps? Or do you have the old maps that we pulled from our site?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if we've updated that. I'll ask. I'll find out.
I can, when the press comes back, we can work with Amy. So get back to the kiosks. Are all the kiosks in good shape? Do we need any new kiosks?
I think they, I mean, I haven't inspected them personally. The ones I have seen, they all look fine to me.
Okay.
I think they'll look a lot better when we take the plastic bags off of them. Clean them up a little bit, but.
Do we need a little coat of or white paint or anything? Or they're pretty holding up well.
I think we'll have to do a relook, but I think for the most part, they're okay. I think maybe there was one that had a questionable roof,
Yeah.
maybe.
And the other thing, the last thing I wanted to mention is Russ talked about some signs other than kiosk locations. Where would that be?
They're where trails connect, so they're not, gonna be, I think they're the same, like 16 by 20, they might be, I think.
I think it's just largely a sign, so
It's just the map,
pains, exactly.
Yeah.
And you are on that white trail.
Oh.
And then you come to the blue and the green, or here, just
right,
a map to say, oh, where am I? Because you have an intersection. He ordered enough to cover that.
We all done.
Well, speaking of coyotes, I think I may have sent everybody
About your book.
Oh,
Yeah, I said I'd like to read it.
okay,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
me too, I've
Yeah.
done.
yeah, pass it around.
Yeah,
You can bring it an email.
But it's pretty much.
You have a book?
I have
Did you write a
called
book?
Coyote
he read a
America,
book.
Oh, okay.
That I just finished reading, and
Uh-huh.
it's fascinating, because it just goes through
Yeah,
And
no,
that's
they're
fun.
super interesting.
coyotes, the biology
Uh-huh.
and all the Native American, spiritual
Uh-huh.
stuff, and so it's really.
Yeah.
And how coyotes got here.
Uh-huh,
I mean, they suddenly showed up,
uh-huh.
and why did that happen? So that was nice.
What's the name of the book?
Coyote America.
So it's interesting. I remember back 20 years ago, or maybe longer, there was this big, almost like with mountain lions today, are there coyotes in New England or not? And they certainly have moved in.
Yeah,
And the thing that I hear a lot now, we have some friends in Vermont who always are talking about coy dogs.
yeah.
The local coyotes are bigger.
Well, they're coy wolves.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
as they moved across Canada, they went sort of north of the Great Lakes, and they ran into timber wolves in Canada and interbred. And so they are bigger, but they're not as big as people think they are. I went to a talk in Essex about coyotes that was by the DEP, and he had a slide of a coyote that somebody had shot or trapped or something. Anyway, it was hanging, and there were people standing next to it, and they said, "Okay, tell me how much that coyote weighs." And people said 90 pounds, 110. So this coyote weighs 35 pounds.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
They just are big. There's your
Fluffy.
big
Yeah.
fur.
I'm not saying.
We will learn more about coyotes.
Mm-hmm.
Be a Ginny Apple.
Then
Everybody
we'll have
remember to register.
then we'll have to learn about bears, because their bears
Yeah.
have Lyme too.
Yeah.
I guess Mike Aurelia saw a bear.
Did he see him?
Yeah, Champlain North. And somebody up on Sill Lane had one crossing the lawn.
I haven't seen him, but a neighbor saw him in our house.
Yeah,
On the Bayberry
That's
Ridge.
good habitat for him.
Yeah.
They preserve.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about your pollinator garden idea?
Oh, yes. Well, Bill had, shared some information a couple of meetings ago about a pollinator garden. He saw at one of his places he visited
Mhm.
and hiked, and, he was thinking, oh, why don't we do one of these? It's a good way to get people interested in a property. And I was thinking maybe if we all thought it was a good idea, do something really simple like, milkweed. Plant some milkweed in Brooks Meadow.
Hmm. A great place for it.
And yeah, and we could, because I don't think there's anything like that there now. And I know, Greg, you had said the guy mows
Yeah.
once or twice a year.
I think he mows twice a year,
But
but he checks with us before he does
he
it.
does.
So we could adjust that. We could certainly adjust his timing, because I don't think he mows with optimum time for perennials in
Yeah.
mind when he does it. He mows primarily to keep, like danger of horseback, and he mows primarily to keep brush and stuff from growing in that field. He does a pathway.
Yes, yeah.
what would be really great is Brooks Meadows, maybe an acre, maybe a little more, is to have that as a test site for a control burn.
Well, it's gonna get to that.
I mean, the milkweed, you can plant um, 6 plugs or something, 5 or 6 plugs, and just see how it takes.
Mhm.
And put it over by the water, the body, the pond there. So it's not like smack in the middle of and the butterflies do like to go sort of near the water, so it'd be a good way to attract them. And
I think it's a great idea. I mean, Brooks Meadow tends to be the idea for a lot of people to
to
do
sit,
things with.
yeah, and to
But
see,
I think this is nice, and I would actually suggest perhaps that we not do that, but we maybe contact whoever's the pollinator pathway group, and
Okay,
see if they
yeah,
might do
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
For
that's a
us.
good idea, yeah, and we don't have
Suzanne
that.
Thompson's probably involved with that in some way, or the
Yeah.
River Garden Club.
Yeah, okay. Suzanne
Are
Thompson.
you with Ducky?
Not anymore.
Okay.
I have stepped back from ducky duties. I'm still gonna work the plant sale because I actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
Do you want to see who's involved with pollinator pathway?
Sure, I actually know, I have some emails, cause I went to a couple of those, winter stratification planting thingies, so I'll look and see and, find out if it's something that, you know, they might be interested in helping us with. Wouldn't be that big of a deal though, to plant them, and then you just have to keep them a little bit weed free.
There must be a pollinator pathways group here in Ojai,
Yeah.
and if not,
Yeah, is
if
there,
not, Wendy Hill and is involved.
okay, all right.
I'm pretty confident Suzanne Thompson had been
Is she
involved in
the
that, but between that and her mixed the knotweed
Right.
and Oswegatchie Hills and everything, full-time job and everything, I don't know what she's involved in now.
Yeah, I can't think of the person's name that was sending out the emails, but I'd go back and look, and then would Suzanne be a person to reach out to, though, just see if she
She'll-
can.
she'll have ideas.
Yeah,
She'll-
all right.
yeah.
I can
okay.
send her, I can send her an email, Joan, and whatever she gets.
Okay.
I'll send to you.
Perfect. All right.
So, I can cite you in just a second, but, I think we're still on for, and Fred and I to meet with Frank Servo from Deep at Ferry Landing tomorrow. So I happened to meet him, at a CLCC conference a couple of years ago, and I think there's maybe 3 foresters in the state, in the Eastern District. We had received a grant invitation from Deep to see if we wanted to get some help with forest planning, but apparently that program is all booked up. He said we can talk about that in the next round, but he did suggest a whole lot of detail that there might be grants available for implementation of creating more improved and resilient forestry. And meet with him at Ferry Landing about that. And the thing I like is that rather than being excluded from a lot of these grant opportunities by Deep, because we're too small a town, whatever. Deep is kind of reaching out to smaller towns, just like Oline, to help with their forestry concerns, which is great. He said Frank wrote, particular grant opportunities focused on implementation projects as opposed to planning projects. We have offered many planning grants in the past and very likely do so again in the future. That would be your opportunity to pursue a forest management plan on a larger conserved tract. So I think we're kind of going in there. I think we both have questions for each other. Regarding what Deep might do, but it would be wonderful if we get some support to continue with the Ferry Landing work.
When you talk about controlled burning on Ferry Landing,
No.
or not, no, okay, just forest
No.
management, okay.
So
got
we're
it.
playing with forest management. Evan, I know Evan's been interested in that for a while. He's talked about the Native Americans use burns and so forth.
Yeah,
And you mentioned the Hantic Forest. Do you know, had there been burns there?
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, right
I
off
did one
the-
last year.
Last year, was it? Yeah.
If you go into, the name of the road is, just before Tiffany Farm, the road into Natick State
Mhm.
Forest, if you drive in there, about 15 acres on the left-hand side of the road has been burned now 3 or 4 times. Once every 3 to 5 years. So it's, and it's fascinating to see because it does kill some of the trees, but it doesn't kill them all. I mean, because they're relatively cool burns, they're not wildfires. And if they kill a tree or two, that opens up the canopy to more light. And then you get which is pretty principally why the Native Americans burned is to keep the undergrowth fairly lush so that there are more deer, so that their hunting and that their travel through the woods was easier, but also for hunting.
You had mentioned invasive controls. Would there be a benefit of a burn?
Well,
That
it sort of depends on what you're talking about. I suspect that there are certain types of plants, foreign plants that would resist being burned. I don't think you control knotweed with fire. Because you can't control knotweed with much of anything.
Sometimes it opens up spaces for invasives to come in, that's
Yeah.
a risk.
Yeah.
But if you're isolated like that, that's a pretty pristine area, so it's
Yeah.
not such a risk.
are you around tomorrow?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Would you want to join us? And I was thinking I was going to specifically ask the forester about a burn. And it's 1 o'clock at Ferry Landing.
1 o'clock. Let me just check. Sure.
I'm curious what his reaction would be. And I'm also curious about,
That's Thursday the 12th.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, I could do that.
were we,
We're meeting at,
Down
City
by that.
College.
I don't, I mean, I don't think, I don't think Ferry Landing is at all
well, that's the thing, that's the thing.
candidate for
Yeah.
controlled burning because of the neighbors and.
Yes, yeah.
And the slope.
For many reasons.
Yeah, so but I was curious if either you or Forrester would have some thoughts about, you suggested Rook's Meadow, which is basically just grassland as
Yeah.
opposed to a part of area that's treed. I don't know how you. I'm curious about, do you know who did the Niantic burn? Was it deep?
Yeah,
And how did they limit it to a certain area? Did they have?
I think they may have mowed a perimeter area and maybe even taken some hose and taken out some vegetation just as a fire line. And then they had, I don't know, 5 or 6 people from the forestry department that deep. Trying to remember the name of the forester who was running that. He's retired now, and I can't remember.
Well, we can ask Frank about that. It might be a good opportunity also to kind of partner with the fire department. Might be a training.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that if they had.
We're starting to get contact with them from another committee that Andrea and I are on. Ken Swain, he was assistant chief assigned to the fire department and on this committee. So.
Yeah, well, it also,
McCarthy's is on that
Yeah,
too.
Ron and Michael, yeah.
Yeah.
one of the arguments of getting the fire department involved is that over the next few years, fire is going to be coming back to New England.
Yes.
In a big,
Yeah.
big way. We've already seen it in different parts of Connecticut.
I could see reports that it may be a sort of strong El Nino or Nina or whatever,
Right.
which is going to lead to hotter and drier conditions potentially this summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I would be very reluctant to start a fire without the fire department.
So I don't want to dilute what we're gonna do tomorrow, because we're talking about a couple things, Ferry Landing and possibly the burn. Do you want to talk about a management plan on some other properties or mention that to Frank or not?
Well, I would. The
Because I
primary,
think the forest management plans are for bigger parcels of land.
yeah, the primary purpose is visits to see what you can do for Ferry Landing.
Right.
And then after that, I just asked him very preliminarily what he thinks of controlled burns. And then we talk about what's the best place to stage something like that. Is it a field or is it a section of forest like in Manhattan or whatever?
Bill Nearing, who taught ecology at Connecticut College, did a controlled burn at the Arboretum in New London And I think it was about an acre. You know, they did 200 by 200. And, I don't know if he did it multiple times or just once, but it was he and his students, of course, he had a whole class of, you know, young people to.
And you know what might be interesting too, Evan, I know that you've been on the Yukon message board that reaches out to land trust. Just be curious if any land trusts or towns have done control burdens and what their experience has been and
Yeah,
how the regrowth is and so forth. I would be a little bit, I'd love to know what the potential impact would be of what Fred alluded to, that you clear the canopy and open it up, or you have barber or whatever, populate that faster than native plants.
yeah,
Yeah,
Depends where you are.
I think it's I'm just sure that there are some very specific sort of criteria for why and when and where you would do a controlled burn, you know, if you have a specific agenda for managing a forested area, you know, like, you know, I don't even know what that, you know, when fire would be the best way to achieve those goals, you know? I think it has to be pretty specific. I don't know.
Well, you know, burns are one thing you could do, but the forest management involves a lot more than just
Right.
burns, right?
Yeah.
oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and,
And the timing, to that point, the timing of when you did it, whether it's spring, summer, winter, fall, could also impact the potential invasive or other species that you wanna have.
Right.
Deep also does a control burn in the fields at Harkness.
Do they?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I was over there one time when they were burning and it was fascinating to watch.
Interesting.
But they had, you know, the equipment and
Right.
fire truck and pumper stuff.
And the Long Island Sound right next
Long
to us.
Island Sound, yeah.
It's comforting.
I'd be curious to talk,
1 o'clock.
What?
1 o'clock?
1 o'clock, yeah. I'd be curious to talk to like the folks maybe at Harkness or whatever. And just kind of determine a spread. So what is the objective? Why they do that?
Mm,
Did the burn do what they hoped it would do?
right, exactly.
I think once you do burns, you kind of do that, that's the thing you do routinely then, that's what they do in the Handic.
Yeah,
I mean, the point of doing it is not to just do it once, but to do it at the right intervals, to
Yeah.
maintain that
well, that's
type of
why
forest.
they do it about every, as I said. the trees
It's a
are-
program basically you kind
Yeah.
of look into, yeah.
We-
But I'm on the deep mailing list and they sent an example of a forest management plan for land trust or somebody, maybe it was a town. Well, tons of things to read, but if you're interested in seeing what that looks like, I could circulate that to people.
Yeah, I've got a line,
It's an example.
land trust meeting tomorrow and I'll find out what they've gotten from Deep or CLCC or, I mean, I know that they've been having some they've been having some talks with the Great Mountain Forest
Yep.
research area in the northwestern corner on resilient forestry.
Yeah, that's right.
Can you talk a little bit, Evan, about how the land trust and the town work together on their land? This the town owned land and the land trust owned land, but the land trust kind of stewards it all, or how does that?
No, I think that stewardship is done and I mean in line.
Yeah.
I think it's all done by volunteers and Wendy Hill.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That would be the land trust.
No, that she's the open space coordinator,
And she's also on the land
but
trust.
she's also on the land trust board.
Who actually owns the 50% or whatever? Who actually owns that? Does the town own half and land trust or?
I can't tell you what. the
Does the
percentage
town-
is of the-
Town does own land itself. though?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, they just bought 250 acres 2 years ago from the Johnston family. And part of that was designated as old growth forest that was, or maybe it was just very mature forest, which hasn't quite gotten to the old growth category, but there were indications that was happening. So. but I think, I mean, the Lyme Land Trust just keeps acquiring more property and very, for the town that it's very supportive. I mean, there were, two or 3 years ago, there was the town meeting, there was a suggestion
I
that
recall that, yeah.
they total funding.
Take some of the money from the.
$1 bonding,
Yeah.
yeah, authorization, and there was like 90% of the people said, "Oh, I get by."
Yeah.
Well, there's a development on the horizon, I think that all the towns need to be aware of, and that's the new affordable housing push. And Old Lyme has already been contacted, and I think there's gonna be groups that will be making inventories of developable land in towns. Consider what might be appropriate for affordable housing. And I think any land that does not have some type of legal protection is gonna be put on that list. So, and with this associate and I have struggled to figure out how to do east in this town. So while we're talking about forests and stuff like that, I don't know if I shared it or not. Conservation Commission would work with Mark Comstock and Pennell to do various presentations and provide materials, whatever. And they had written that he has 101 gallon sprouts of red bud that he would provide to people. And I understand it is a native species in Connecticut. Would open space have any appropriate places to plant anything like that? Is that something we should consider? Maybe try to get a few.
Timing of it is the problem.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really optimistic that we're gonna find that a late fall planting at Ferry Landing, for example, means that we don't have to be, you know, nursemaiding with watering and whatnot.
Yeah, that's the thing, yeah.
So, you know, if it can sit in a pot until next November.
I don't know, I didn't.
Probably.
I'm not that familiar with
You
the
say next
species.
to a year from now, or this coming in
It's just coming down.
And we have Emily and I have a red bud in a pot that we just dug in the ground.
Uh-huh.
Just plumped- Dug a hole and plumped it in
Yeah,
and it's surviving.
uh-huh.
Um,
Well, you know, I mean, if it's at your house and you're watering it, yes.
Yeah.
Are you watering?
no,
No?
I'm not watering. it.
Really? Okay.
I think
What's
And how long has it been a pot?
it's been a year or so.
Really?
what's its preferred environment? Does it like wetter soil or?
Well, it's in somewhat sandy soil and acidic soil. I remember redbud when I was in the army in Texas and there were redbuds all over. I mean,
They're pretty hardy.
Lady Bird Johnson loved redbud, and so she planted redbuds all over the place. So, and that's pretty hot and dry. So
That's surprising. I think of them as understory trees, like a
Yeah.
Well, it
dogwood.
says here full sun to partial shade.
Yeah, but they're pretty hardy. I think they'll
I
put
mean,
up
there's a lot of
pot.
spaces on Bartholomew, for example,
Mm,
that stay more or less moist.
Right. Well, Ferry Landing is pretty moist too, until you get to this, you know, the upper.
you got all the runoff from the road coming down that hill. And,
You know, I'm not sure how much runoff we're getting. I mean, runoff from the site, yes, but I don't know if we're getting any off of the road. I
No.
mean, there's a stone wall there for one thing.
well, no,
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like a big,
it's not.
Wash.
It's not a deluge.
right,
It's,
okay.
But there is moisture coming off the road and
Right.
heavy rain that
Well,
goes to the
I,
side of the road and
yeah.
down the hill.
but I think that the closer you get to the pond, the wetter the
Oh, yeah.
cushions are.
It's not a typical native species. It's of a southern species, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
Well,
things are moving
Right.
like that, but
yeah.
it's not one of our typical forest trees.
I did do a quick search and it said it's Connecticut was, used to be anyway, at the northern range of its natural habitat, so it was native to Connecticut, not so much for northern Mass into
Hmm.
northern New England.
Hmm.
But that may be changing.
I've never seen it in the wild in Connecticut.
I
Yeah,
don't know that I have either.
I mean, I've seen people plant them
yeah.
in the beautiful trees and. Do the deer browse on them? I wonder, what's another
I don't
thing?
know, we're finding out,
Probably will.
but, actually the deer we didn't have much, problem with browse because the acorn crop was pretty good last fall, and so the deer were fat and happy. Um, But the other thing, Ann, is, I've got an article I thought I'd give you about, Atlantis control.
Okay.
And instead of taking a hatchet, and banging on it, there's a suggestion that you get a drill, like what sugar
Like tapping.
tappers
Yeah.
use, the same, a drill bit, and
Uh-huh.
you drill into the, and then you squirt
Round up and.
around it. And so,
Sounds
this is from the society, suggestion from the Society of American Foresters, that
Oh.
get rid of Atlantis.
I like it.
So I'll get you.
Okay.
Speaking of trees, this is our beaver video that we can share. I think maybe you've already seen it, but here's another view of it. We'll see if we have sound. It is up on the screen.
That little arrow to the right of that circle.
Do you hover over the actual video? Do you get anything?
Yeah.
The cursor.
We'll find out what happens.
Dear.
Yeah.
Is that on camera on one of your preserves?
Do you have a video?
Yeah, not that I'm,
Did you just want to show it?
not that I'm dissing it, but, you know, I'm a paper girl. I read my newspaper, the real thing. I read my mail carrier at 5:30 in the morning sometimes.
We all have our papers.
Yeah.
Everybody printed them out.
I'm actually in the agenda on my phone. Yeah, trying to be not good, but a little less of a paper user.
We spent 15 minutes playing around with this.
Yeah,
I think this little earlier, it was never moving. I mean, she just had it up there, but it was never. I never saw the video.
you have an arrow on yours or anything that?
Can you right click on it?
Well, there's multiple issues here. This is, I think this is the newest or best laptop. This is a laptop that's probably been replaced because it's,
Uh,
you know, the speed, obviously.
Well, maybe we should just watch it on.
Yeah.
Brandy, or Fendi.
All right, so I'm gonna see if I can't make this bigger, but, can you all see?
Yeah.
Oh, make this little. So just by,
It's red.
by way of background, when we, when we started doing the videos, Alex Roth was a high school student and he did the very first series of them and Evan did the voiceover, the script and the voiceover. Then we had this, Riley Bear, another, college, he was a high school graduate at that time and in college, who's into media. And then he did the voiceovers and music himself with Eric Evan doing the script. And then Emily Evers did the third series from Ferry Landing. She no longer has the Adobe capabilities and she's also working in New London or Brantford with me now and somewhere else. And this is Brianna Melilla, who is also a college graduate with a background in video, graphic artist, graphic arts that has the capability. So she put this together and it just makes me think that if you need work on the website, she could probably have some. I know Katie seems to do a lot in everything, and I don't know to what extent bringing in somebody else to help with website work or something on our website, but
I can tell you right now, the town, at this point anyway, is restricting who can edit the website, so employees.
mhm.
I think it's primarily Katie and Jen Down that are doing.
So, there is volume, hopefully volume on this, and you can even hear the beaver, but what we're looking for is comments. I think Anne had wrote some in and, that seemed very valid, so any others?
Beavers bring value to the landscape. Beavers are nature's engineers. They build their dams in brooks, streams, and rivers, creating wetlands that help watersheds, recharge aquifers, and provide habitat for fish, birds, amphibians, and mammals. Beavers fell trees to harvest the inner bark or cambium, rich in sugars and minerals. They chew through the bark, filing down their ever-growing teeth to use the wood for building dams and lodges, and to store winter food supplies.
That was the top of its tail in case you didn't catch it.
When a beaver drops a tree, light pours through the tree canopy to help new undergrowth used for food and cover by other creatures. The Old Lyme Open Space Commission wants beavers to do their work, protecting watersheds, preventing erosion, and creating rich wildlife habitat.
That's cool.
Mhm.
Can you see the little owl?
Yeah, the owl is
This
great.
is a screech owl.
That's a really.
Hold on, let me, I can stop that. Oops. So, well, I'll go back. Now this is. So here.
Yeah, oh, that's so nice.
The images, the daytime images, the deer are wonderful.
Nice, yeah.
The deer, the sound is off, but the deer makes us a warning cough. And I was, when Andrea sent me the one that I was watching it, and the deer coughed and my dog barked.
But my thoughts on it, Andrew, is
I don't know what happened to the sound of the last two. Let me go down to the end.
Is there narration through in the deer?
It ended.
Excuse me, let me go back here.
Just to do their work, protecting watershed, preventing erosion, and creating rich wildlife habitat.
Is that the talk there?
So no, through the last like 20 seconds, or I'm not sure how long that is even.
Where is that open space at the very end?
Oline Open Space Commission.
Yeah, at the very end.
Yeah.
I would put it at the beginning. So can she still edit this?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, I would
excuse me.
put that in the beginning. Do we want to identify where this was taken or not? With it, nice, Beaver Kim, Bartholomew or whatever.
Yeah, Ann had a good speech.
So this presently says, oh, thank you. This presently says Beaver's Old Line Trail Cam, but it can say Beaver's Old Line Open Space Bartholomew.
Yeah, that would be.
I need you, all that, maybe it's just Beavers.
Bartholomew property.
Well, I thought if there was some narration that just said, you know, you can see Beaver's handiwork for yourself at the Old Line Bartholomew.
Yeah, that would be fine. I, something to indicate Bartholomew and to maybe give a plug for Bill's little loop trail there.
Yeah, and where there is a beaver trail, yeah.
My only hyper skeptical mind thinks somebody's gonna go in there and steal the camera.
Oh.
The beavers.
They have to bring serious equipment to get it off. The bear box is screwed into the tree.
Oh,
It's not just strapped around it.
okay.
People, children mostly on film,
Come right up.
they
to
come
it.
right up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and you know, and usually most things I take away anything the people, but I do recognize,
Yeah.
you know, some frequent flyers, I see Joan and
Winter.
Jim Lampos and, you know, I don't know who's children, you know, but there are certainly children who run up to the tree and tap on it and even push the trees, which makes me nervous thinking, parents, I don't know. If you just want your kid pushing out that tree.
If we have an idea where it is, some type of promotion of the trail. The other thing I would suggest is, I thought was Evan's comment was interesting, that it's a screech owl, and it just says owls up there, just say screech owl, see screech owl, and what do you call it, the beaver cut or whatever, whatever the language would be.
It's screech.
And maybe just
or
hold,
EA.
What's that?
I just,
I think EE.
EE screech, so it could just say screech owl.
yeah. And
Yes.
maybe, just pause it for a little bit there, so people can identify that before it moves on.
Yeah.
Nobody goes
Throw it
around
down.
the owl. It's like
Okay.
big locations, maybe it was visiting.
It was in the middle of that. so
Yeah.
I'm not sure that-
Say that
Screech
again.
owls are pretty. There,
Congo.
well, they're not, you don't, it's harder to find them. I mean, you hear them, but you
You don't
rarely
hear.
see them.
I never do.
They're mostly nocturnal.
Oh, they are nocturnal. Yeah. Most owls are.
So great point out all the other.
But are they fairly common?
Yeah.
So just to recap, for beavers, Old Line, or just the Old Line Open Space Commission,
No, whatever that concluding, image was, start with that and then go into beavers on Bartholomew.
So that's like the title of the video.
Yeah.
Comes out first, I agree.
beavers on also, Old Line,
MGM presents.
yeah. Old Line Open Space. Put that in.
Have a beer with it, mouth up and roll.
Beavers on Bartholomew, and then at the end, either written or verbal, depending upon, for editing. You can see Beaver's handiwork on Bartholomew. Open space. Beaver Trail.
maybe not space again, but Bartholomew.
You can see Beaver's handiwork on Bartholomew. The Beaver Trail, new Beaver Trail.
We could do something like beavers in Bartholomew open space.
Or
Hike the beaver trail.
Keep it simple and say view beavers on Bartholomew open space.
Perfect.
Well, yeah. I don't know if you're gonna see
Yeah, we
beavers,
don't
but you're
really-
gonna see their handiwork.
Yes.
Their handiwork, yes.
And the fact that there's a trail, I think is nice, and even to say, not to make it too wordy, but to say an interpretive trail, you know? An informational trail,
That's the kind of thing that makes people want to go to
yeah.
different
Yeah,
places.
I think it should have a plug.
View Beaver's handiwork on Bartholomew's interactive, is that what you said?
Not
Not interactive.
interpretive.
Interpretive. Interpretive Beaver Trail.
And I think that when you have a little bit more text like that, you should hold on that framework image you did with frozen for 5 seconds, so give people a chance to read it.
Yeah.
Or to just, she can just say that, I mean, it doesn't have to all be, I found the titles, or whatever, the written stuff over the image is kind of big, so I'd rather hear her say that at the end. And,
Do both.
or you could do them.
Okay,
I think it's
and then when it's finished, I could post it to you all again,
perfect.
and then you have to be I understood my,
Yes,
Greg, I will pass it to you to pass on to Katie.
so, while we're talking about stamping, fostering, whatever, a colleague of Ann and I on Gateway sent out something where and the Botanical Society is offering basically field hikes on Saturday or Sunday mornings, usually at 9 or 10 a.m. Lasting a couple hours, not per se, but an examination of native vegetation. And that could be something that we could make as kind of a guided hike, like we've done with Viper, whatever, or we could do it just for ourselves, the ID plants. And I think one area that might work really nicely for that, I'm sure there are others, is even with our thing to go around Horse Neck Creek, because it's kind of a nice little short, small little area and nice sampling of native plants and it's we learned when we had somebody out there like a year and a half ago, there's very few invasives in there, which makes it a really beautiful little property.
I just incidentally bringing up John Pfeiffer, I never got back to because I have not heard back. He told me he was kind of grumpy and said that he did that.
Surprise.
He did that work in 1971 and no one's probably alive that would have photographed it, but that he would look. But I'm going to email him just to say, but I have to make sure I say it so he's not grumpy. He didn't do that. He goes, well, we won't have to talk about what he said, but anyhow.
Let me do some digging, let me contact.
Okay.
them directly.
I mean,
That might
I'm
be easier.
sure he has some photos that would have been somewhat available, or could say, you know, you could try this place or that place.
I can, when one does their PhD thesis, I would imagine there's gotta be some references, if he's basing it on occupation, there's gotta be some reference images, whatever, that of whatever the artifacts they
Yeah,
found were.
I know, yeah.
They went somewhere, because as
And
Evan knows,
I don't know where they. went.
Mr. Ames was not happy they went missing.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, I think there was some controversy as to there being,
oh, Steve was. excited.
Taken, yeah. Knowing John Pike, he just wanted to get them in a safe place and not have anyone make
I thought
anything off
that
of
maybe they
them.
went to wrestling.
That could be.
Yeah.
If there's an anthropologist at Wesleyan, I would start.
Yeah.
Was it that where John was?
Teaching.
No, I think he got his, he was at UConn. I
It was
just
UConn.
like all reading that those artifacts went to UConn.
Oh.
Okay.
Again, along the lines of plants and vegetation and so forth. The Conservation Commission has been very interested in working with us and inland wetlands on various projects. And one of the things that they suggested, we were going to talk about it this last meeting, but it was deferred until their April meetings. They're interested in doing an inventory and a map of endangered species, both fauna and flora in Old Lyme. And I'm not quite sure how that would differ from having an NDDB done, but I can reach out to them and say, talk a little bit about what you want to do, and maybe we'll work with you to do it in throwing an open space, which would be kind of nice.
Well, the nice thing about the NDDB is that they don't tell you what. They don't tell you that they're what sort of plant or animal, because there's so many people out collecting and
Yes.
stealing and, I mean, you tell somebody there's a bog turtle and, and you'll have people going to. find a bog turtle.
That's exactly correct, and they mention locations in there,
And
which
I'd be
encourage.
worried that the Conservation Committee, the Old Lyme Conservation Commission is not gonna, if they're actually finding a species that would get on the market, that they would keep that secret, how they would keep that secret.
Hmm.
No.
It's a good thing to know. On the other hand, it's from my perspective, the chief benefit to open space for that is it's great justification for asking for grants and whatever. They want to protect the property because of.
Endangered.
Well, and-
So they can say it's present, but just not give a location.
Yeah.
It's present in Old Lyme,
Yeah. Right.
Well,
right? That would be
but
protected enough.
specific to a property, it could be, justification for keeping it off of the developable properties list.
Right.
Very good.
That was one of the issues of, when I was on the at the Wetlands Commission, but it was, when we were having all that discussion with harbor management, that, where that marshland right there was in a blob
Yeah, blob.
of the natural diversity database. What the species was, you can matter of conjecture, but it's, sharp-tailed sparrow or something that was in the marsh itself.
Greg, can they? The town-owned properties, the open space properties, can we be forced to sell those for affordable housing, or are they safe since it's now owned as?
That's
Exactly what.
excellent question.
Yeah.
I would think that if there's not some type of protection,
I
like
see.
via easement,
They could be.
it's possible.
The town of Groton took a town open space and they built high school.
Evans, when you mentioned that It was a property acquired, northern part of Lime or whatever. What does Lime do to legally protect their properties from development?
I don't know that they do anything more than we do. So,
So they could be in the same boat as us.
Well, I wonder if
Yeah.
the Lime Land Trust is willing to hold easements on town property, which, you know,
I'll ask tomorrow.
yeah. Cause, that's the problem is you have to get somebody to. But,
I mean, some of their, Lyme has some interesting, arrangements. They have one property that's actually owned by the Nature Conservancy, but they have all the stewardship is done by the Lyme Land Trust. So they have a memorandum of understanding, that the land trust is in charge of the stewardship, but the land itself, the deed is in the name of the Nature Conservancy.
And I also think that land trust does do some maintenance on the open space.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of, I mean, I volunteered for, I'm on the board of the land trust, but I volunteered to help Wendy on town land.
And their oversight or liability doesn't really apply to I mean, we have a different liability for Peter than you do for John Lacroix on Old Land Trust, and I think that's how Lime operates.
Yeah, well, I don't know how the land trust deals with it, but the town
According to
doesn't.
Christine, when I spoke with her, just like, yeah, they just have at it. We have
Yeah.
a great group.
Yeah.
Don't question them, they just do it.
Yeah, I've gone out with a chainsaw and carried it through the woods and, you know, didn't have to check in with anybody or, you know, but, obviously, whoever carries the insurance policy for Oakline doesn't want people doing that.
I mean, every fence got their own way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
What mine does, to some extent, is irrelevant, but I don't.
Yeah,
So while we're. I'd like to kind of we're talking with that. I'd like to segue into. Different things that, and we talked about Horse Neck Creek. Jim Lampos, in the town. Applied for and received a grant through Connecticut Sea Grant in Yukon to basically create a strategic resiliency action plan. It's going to be quarterly virtual meetings, and among the issues discussed will be coastal and riverine resilience and land use and conservation, and the climate related assessments that property outlined. So we open space was asked to participate on this committee. Russ Linderman is a co-chair of Flood and Erosion Control Board, and they've also been asked to participate. So I asked Russ, would you wear two hats at these meetings? And he agreed to do so. But Russ, as we know today, Russ has become a worldwide traveler, and those instances where Russ is traveling, Ann has agreed to be his backup. And if Russ and Ann are out of town, I will do that. So okay, that would be something that we're doing. Also, the Lime Bard Association has been sending out information looking for people that are interested in participating in the Midsummer Festival. And I applied on behalf of Open Space. Christine said she's going to be a contact for that. I'm sure that Andrea and she and some great ideas for kids. I
are we gonna be stuck back there?
Question not to be. Yeah, hopefully not.
We are not going to be at Audubon, okay? A member of the land trust expressed pretty forcefully that it was not the location that the land trust thought it would be, and people were definitely the impression that no location would be best for both of us.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that's gonna be. It could, my guess would be it's gonna either be back at the art association or maybe across the street in that little field by the old line man. Which was where a number of, where conservation was. Conservation somehow got to select that as their spotlight here, so.
Hmm.
And the date for that is,
Twenty-fifth.
in Congress is Saturday, July 25th. And they cut back a little bit. This year it's gonna be 9 to 3. So,
Say 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you say July?
Yeah.
Pardon?
yeah, July, yes, July 25. Saturday,
What is the time?
9 to 3. And I assume we'll be able to set up the day before, and we'll talk about the details. Perhaps borrow that overhang from the land trust again.
What's that? Oh, yeah.
Two other things I wanted to mention is Joe Atwater is sponsoring a bird walk on McCulloch on May 12th, if he wants to go. And we had talked about it, but I don't, Russ said he never followed up on it. We still want to do a map of Ferry Landing. I'll write to Steve Perry.
Well, I
and get
just,
it
I
over.
was gonna do that, I'm happy to do it, but I didn't know what he would need for that, can he just get what he needs off the GIS?
Do you want to call him or contact him and see what he needs and just have him give us a quote? Basically, it would be like the other maps, but without trails.
No trails.
That's really kind of all I have today. Does anybody else have anything they want to bring up or discuss?
I had an idea, just to sort of bounce off folks, we've been talking about collaborating with conservation. Or just programming, like doing some kind of, we had been thinking about coyote lecture, and now thankfully the land trust is doing that for us. But I was wondering how people thought about doing something like that's oriented at raptor protection, like specifically rodenticide information. And possibly also maybe bringing in some reflective window, you know, like window, just sort of like bird safety, how to sort
great
of be a good neighbor to your avian, you know, birds in the community.
Yeah,
And I know that would be obviously kind of a thing to do with Audubon, but.
Well, also with the pollinator group, because the pollinators are kind of. If you're gonna have a little pollinator garden in your backyard, you're gonna attract birds
Right.
and feed them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they did pass some legislation about rodenticide, but it was not the full, the most stringent version that I hoped would.
I think that would be a great thing to.
But so many people, you know,
have
they
there.
call him exterminator and the guy says, oh, no, it doesn't affect, you know. It only affects the mouse or the, you know, and that's just not
No,
true.
it's not.
And, so it's not. Collaborate with somebody.
Even to some brief extent, maybe even at the Midsummer Festival, I mean, that there's just display something.
But I think hands, because I haven't
So
seen
the
any.
talk on it, but would be more robust, certainly.
I mean, if there were some handouts, maybe that Audubon even has, that we could have at Midsummer. But I think it'd be great to kind of make it a more in-depth informational thing.
Like rehab or one of the
Yeah,
organizations like that, because they're the ones that I see that pops up on Facebook all
Yeah.
the time. They're caring for eagles and hawks that have ingested.
right.
It's awful.
So you can buy rodenticide on
Yeah.
the web,
Yes.
Right.
and it just gets mailed to your house and people spread it around
Yeah.
and that's that for the owls and the.
Yeah. No, I had a little mini heart attack. We were walking down Library Lane. And I saw what I thought was a bait box outside the library, and I was like. I was like, I need to have words with Katie. No, and then I went over and I checked it out, and it must have been some kind of, conduit or like some kind of, electrical connection box or something, but, you know, it just occurred to me, like, a lot of people really don't understand that. real thing.
Just the last thing about the birds is, when we had that really cold weather before the storm. And the Black Hall River mostly froze, but there was a little bit of it that was unfrozen. And I looked out and I saw like 4 eagles right at the edge of the ice. Waiting for a buffet, their buffet.
Yeah, all winter. Evan and I were talking, there was a striper out in the middle of the road across from our house that
Wow.
one of them must have picked up and, and then the vultures were like hanging out on my neighbor's roof. It was bizarre. But the immature eagles, there was 5 of them out there. I was out taking pictures of them right off our deck.
I went when it wasn't this winter, it could have been, but it wasn't there a year about, I don't know, 10 years ago.
COVID.
Yeah. Big cold snap and the cove in front of our house, froze over. And I was walking early in the morning and I counted 15 eagles.
Wow.
They'd all come down. I think it was the year that some guy drove his pickup truck onto the river ice and drove under the East Haddam Bridge.
Oh, my.
Dead deer out for the eagles.
Wow.
Somebody threw a couple of deer carcasses,
yeah.
yeah, right up near the Goodspeed, I
Right.
think, yeah.
One peculiarity that I have noticed a lot, let us go, is when you're going over the Baldwin Bridge on the Old Line side of the river at certain times of the day, you can see like about a half a dozen vultures swimming around.
Yeah,
Well,
they,
they're-
yeah,
No,
Yes.
it's.
Wind current must be perfect, and you like to soar around in that spot.
Well, they also roost on the.
yeah,
on
It roosts under the house.
Yeah.
We have a hawk in our yard today watching over the pond, the small fish pond. It had iced over, but because we have like a bubbler, there's, an open space there and it was just kind of waiting and hoping, but there were no fish.
and why?
Anyway, so, would someone make a motion to adjourn? Second,
Oh, second.
all in favor?
Hi.
Thank you.
Before you eat.
Thank you all.